Hi, everybody. My name is Donna Gorton. Welcome to my show, Willows Bend. Tonight, we have an interesting topic. We're going to be talking about, my notifications came back on. Whoops. Let me shut this off again. There we go. We're going to be talking about the different kinds of reptilian races. Now, for anybody who might be listening or watching who's new to my show, my audience chooses the topic each week. So we get a chunk of topics. Everybody votes on it. Majority rules. And so that's what got chosen last week. And then I go and research it out to present it in a nice, neat little package. So that's what everybody picked last week. And we have been hearing about it in the news a fair amount. My notifications are still dinging. Let me check. Nope. There we go. Helps to put glasses on and I can see what I'm doing. So it has been in the news, different sources before here and there, pertaining to different people being seen as possibly being reptilian and or being called out for it, what have you. So interesting topic, interesting idea, and the whole alien idea has been in, or topic itself has been in the news a lot lately. So I do monitor the chat in my Facebook group, Willows Bend. So if you see me looking over here at my phone, I'm saying hi to everybody right now so people know I see them, and welcoming them in. There we go. There we go. Hi, Kim and Sandy. So let me unplug this so this will stand up better. So if you see me looking off to the side, that's what I'm doing, is watching comments on my phone, which is down beside me. So my camera's like flipping all over the place as we get set down. There we are. I don't see you yet, but hi, Nancy. There you are. So welcome. I'll give it a couple minutes for everybody to file in and get settled in. In the meantime, people in my group like me to do kind of, yes, Sandy, we were just talking about that. My fan is on the other side of the room behind my table set up here, and it is so hot. I'm sorry, but I cannot. There'd be no way to concentrate on the material and present it, while I'm sweating and stewing in my own juices doing the show. So we're sacrificing that sound a little bit for the comfort of me and the animals. So fans all I got. Yeah, I don't have, my AC died this year, and they're kind of pricey to get another one. So this is what I got as box fan. Hey, Yvonne, welcome. And Sandy, Miss Tanya, thank you. So since it is my birthday, I thought it was only fitting that I should get to wear a birthday crown today. See. Let's see if I can get it on without ripping my hair or my barrettes or my clip in the back of it, holding my hair off my neck. There, I be styling. Every woman is a queen, and every woman deserves a crown. That's how I look at it. So, hi, Deb. Hi, everybody. You can only find me here. You know what? It always gets shared into Willows Bend, and you just gotta wait a minute for it to start, Deb, and Katie will share it into the group and get it started in the group. But you can watch it kind of anywhere: YouTube, on the Soma Fusion page, Soma Fusion online, the website. We're everywhere. So every social media site. Thank you very much, Kim. I appreciate that. So let me get the sage going for the sage blessing / protection for the group. Fan's gonna blow it everywhere, but that's okay. Dispersion's good. So with this sage, I cast a circle of protection around everyone who watches the show, listens globally, and no matter where you are, that nothing negative can impact you into the show or influence anyone or have any ill will against anybody, and may that protection follow everybody outside of the show as well into their personal lives and keeping them safe from any harm or ill will, and also anybody watching the replay afterwards. So I will it, so mote it be. And my stones real quick. Please cleanse these stones of all energy except for your own, with the hopes that you work with mine. That's the only two I got out tonight. So, and the sage will blow around the room and cover the animals because they're behind me. So There we go, guys. Hey, Stacy. Fire it up. That's right. There. All the ashes off too. End of me. Yeah, it's just too, like I said, the fan is all I got. Everybody's having a heat wave this week across the country. So it's not just here on the East Coast. And I don't do well in the heat. It makes me melt, literally. I get headachy, pukey, the whole 9 yards, and just want to sleep. So, yeah, my AC died this season, and I'm ready for another one. So box fan it is. So, yeah, that's the sound you hear blowing in, over the microphone. But we talked about it at the beginning of the show. Katie pointed it out to me and trade off for me. Yeah, my electricity dipped earlier today, Tuesdays, like weirdly. It just dimmed. It was very odd when it did it. In worst case, you can always see the replay. That's a good part about the show. So welcome, everyone. And as you heard, it's my birthday. So this is my birthday gift from me to you guys. First time it's ever fallen on my birthday. So that's all right. I'm good with that. We got it done. So it's like I said at the beginning, before everybody really got in the group to watch the show. This has been in the news for a while now. Only 77 here. Well, you're lucky, Kim, because it's like 80 something here right now. I don't know if I can access the temperature without losing either the feed or something. Let me check real quick. Just in notification. No, it's not going to show it to me. Yeah, some of my notifications will show me the temperature, but I guess because I'm online, it's not going to. But it was in the 90s today here in New York, and I can't do it. No, too hot. So the idea of, the U.S. government has been discussing more and more about alien sightings, UFO sightings, but not saying anything of any value, of course. But the fact that they're at least talking about it is a start, right? Thank you, Karen. It's not the temp, it's in the humidity and heat index. Yeah, I know that the basic temp here reached like 92 today, but man, it felt hotter. And it's been so muggy the last couple days. Yeah, so it's probably about the same here, Stacy, because if it's 86 in Connecticut, then yeah, we're pretty similar on weather here in New York. So regardless, even 86 is too hot for me. So we got the fan going, so pardon the noise, but it is what it is. I can't sit and stew in my own juices, so I hate sweating. I don't mind working hard, but I hate sweat. Yeah, 89 in DC currently. Oh, yeah, nope. I kept yelling at the dog to get back in the house today because, he would just stand there panting his head off, standing in the sun. I'm like, you're not staying out in this, I hate to say. Way too hot for animal or human, so no. So as I was saying, you're working-ish. Yeah, I figured you kind of usually are, so you got here, that's what counts. The humidity has been awful, yes, Nancy, for the last couple of days. It's been bad, so 84 in the back porch right now. Yeah, so it sounds like it's kind of about the same. Everybody's hot all across the United States this week. Just miserable. So the idea of reptilians, now that's been being talked about in different, off-the-cuff magazines and newspaper articles. If someone has even claimed that they have caught them on video, like main people in politics and so forth. Your son is baking in Las Vegas. Oh, I bet, Yvonne. Oh, 98 in DC Wednesday. Ugh. Yeah, no thanks. I'm good. And, then they kind of wrote it off as being, a glitch in the video or what have you. 109 in Arizona. Oh, gosh, Ted, no thank you. You can keep that there because I'm a northern girl, and yeah, that's way too much for me. It's chilly there, Karen. What's your temperature? How can it be chilly? I heard that, like the whole country, everything I saw anyway said that it was supposed to be really hot everywhere in the United States this week. So regardless, it's too much for me. So yeah, so I saw some video actually on YouTube recently that was kind of trying to debunk the whole, so this senator or this person high up in politics is a reptilian. It's not that, it was a glitch. And yet the videos, they're claiming that they were shape-shifting on video, or that their eyes shifted and changed to look yellow or slit pupiled. And, I'm not sure what to think about that. I don't know what you guys think about it there, but 82 is hot to me. Yeah, that's hot, Karen. That's not chilly to me. So that's, to me, I'm not sure what to think about it, because having it happen so many times at least plants a seed to make you wonder, to me, is this something that could be actually happening? So you're very welcome, Ted. Yeah, I do at the beginning of every show that I do when I go live, and it's, it's to carry that, not only the blessing but the protection with you outside of the show as well, into your private and personal lives. And thus far, everybody in my family through Willows Bend or Beyond the Veil has been healthy and safe. So rock on. Well, yeah, it's still hot to me. All right, so what are the reptilians, or reptoids, as they're also called in some circles? They are an alleged alien race that comes from the star Alpha Draconis in the Draco constellation, or Draco, as some people pronounce it as. The true pronunciation is supposed to be Draco, with that little tongue roll thing. Some claim to be as old as the Earth's dinosaurs, dating back millions of years, and are native to the planet and have adapted and changed shape and form over the years, but are still, in that they're basically meant to be here. Oh, sage absolutely works. It puts a lot of positivity into the environment. Yeah. So they are human-looking lizard beings that are said to be able to shapeshift. And again, that kind of plays into what I just was talking about, that a lot of videos, news reports, etc., have claimed to catch certain people who are thought to be reptilian by conspiracy theorists and so forth, to be shape-shifting and have it caught on video. Now, interestingly, before I go any further, I saw a really interesting video done by, it was like a personal commentary by some news reporter. I'm not sure who she works with, but she was discussing how, like when everything started shifting and changing within the media and social media, that the conspiracy theorists were always made fun of and seen on the fringe of everything. And, the wagers and the way out there people. And that everything that they had claimed in the last year or two has actually ended up being factual, whereas the stuff that the news was reporting actually was the stuff that fell into more like conspiracy theory things, or wasn't true, or misguided information, false information, etc. So there has been kind of a shift like that. So those who look at conspiracy theorists as just loony birds who don't know what they're talking about, are crazy, or whatever, not so much anymore. Those are the things to keep an eye out on anymore, to at least be willing to hear out with an open mind and consider the possibilities of them, because they're not so off base anymore. So, oh yeah, we got a contest going on for Soma Fusion in the YouTube for the 500 subscriber. I'm not sure if there's going to be a prize involved or not, but just even being 500 persons is kind of cool. So, yep. So if you haven't yet, please do. That is the platform that broadcasts me and preserves the shows, so that if someone gets a feather up their behind, as they did last year with falsely reporting the group or what have you, everything's not going to get lost again. And so my shows are safe and protected this way. Well, that's what I'm saying, Karen, is that those anymore, a lot of the conspiracies are showing out to be true, versus the news and things that are reported through the news agencies and social medias are not, that's more the false information that's being put out there. So interesting. It does sound kinky, doesn't it? I was trying to think of a polite way I could say that. A wild hair up their backside, whatever. Okay, so to continue on the topic, I just found that interesting that a news reporter was coming forward saying that even she was guilty of that, of, writing off conspiracy theorists and theories in general, and that anymore, everything in the last year or two that's happened within the governments, et cetera, that they really have shifted, and that stuff turned out to be true, whereas things that was promoted in mainstream news sources is, that's the incorrect information, has incited fear, et cetera. So she was kind of saying, well, and that was interesting to see somebody go public and put that out there. So I thought that was interesting. Okay, so what do the reptilians look like? Now, they are said to be tall, between 7 to 9 feet, and have green scaly skin. Some say that they're more kind of like olive toned. They have 3 long fingers on each hand with an opposable thumb with talons on the ends. Exactly, Pam. Most news is fake news anymore, and you got to take it with a grain of salt, whereas things that have been previously written off as conspiracy theories only are really like the true stuff to pay attention to. So, excuse me. They're said to have 3 long fingers on each hand with an opposable thumb, with talons on the end of them, very muscular arms and legs with large eyes, kind of round shaped. So, and that there's reports of reptilians with and without tails, with and without wings, and hidden genitalia. So, hey, Natalie, and looking at them, you can't tell what, whether they're male or female. They've been sighted with usually no clothes, and sometimes there's an armor on, but usually just a utility belt that is said to help them become invisible. There's supposed to be 2 types of reptilians: the winged, roll the tongue, Dalacos, and the reptoids, which the reptoids are, it's kind of like a cross between the 2 words of humanoid and reptilian, so that because they walk on 2 legs and upright, etc., they're bipedal, then they are like more humanoid in nature. The Draconians, this species is thought to be dangerous, very intelligent, have telekinetic abilities, which allows one to influence another physical system without the physical contact to be able to do so. They have a warlike mentality, and some conspiracy theorists have said that they've infiltrated governments to help further their agenda, which is kind of to create a new world order where they're in charge, basically. I've seen petroglyphs like that in my area, yes. And that is the thing, is that the legends, etc., of them go way back, amongst many populations of people. They're ancient, and they have, which we're going to get into in a minute, which some of the ancient histories are related to some people and what they call them. So I am glad you got it now, Natalie. So it's thought that they, working with governments to help further their agenda. And this includes having members of like the Bush family and the British royal family have also been had claims that they are reptilians, or some of them are anyway. Now the reptoids, they are more benevolent and seek to help protect us and further advance humanity through technology, etc., and kind of look after us and protect us. Many origin stories contain a serpent being aspect to them, going back to the Garden of Eden, like they have a snake in the Garden of Eden, or the serpent, to Atum, the Egyptian serpent man, who was a figure who was half man, half serpent, to Quetzalcoatl, who was the serpent god of the Mayans, the Anunnakis, Enki, who was one of the original Anunnaki brothers who came forward, Enki was described in ancient writings as being reptilian, and they supposedly came to extract gold and other elements from the planet. We see them across many, many cultures, like Lori just said about seeing them in petroglyphs. Yes, that this is ancient information where they're kind of part of all cultures in some form. In Japanese culture, for example, emperors would claim to be descended from dragon gods who came from the heavens. And in ancient astronaut theories, things that came from the heavens were seen to be breathing fire, having fire come from them and be coming down from the sky, which was the heavens. And ancient astronaut theorists have wondered if they weren't perceiving the fire aspect, which is a commonality and a common theme amongst many, many different cultures. It was that a propulsion system of an ancient alien spacecraft, perhaps, which, yeah, it's possible. I mean, I wasn't there to see it, so I can't empirically say absolutely not, and because it's a common thing, and because they were so advanced compared to the people that they were presenting themselves to, they were seen to be gods, bringing down information. So Australia's Aborigines, they teach each other about reptilian races that lives under the earth, rules over humans, and they are descended from a race of human dragons. The Australian Aborigines are allegedly descended from a race of human dragons. In China, they believe that the serpent queen, and hopefully I don't mispronounce this, Nukia, interbred with men. In India, they call the reptilian gods Nagas and claim that they planted their royal families. And even if you think it's even in our modern culture with like the Harry Potter movies, Voldemort had a snake named Nagini, which that is the core root of that word is snake from India, Nagas, and then Nagini. So just a little trivia there. In Africa, they're called Chitari, which are children of the serpent, and their kings are descended from reptilian gods who descended from the heavens also. Mayans spoke of their ancestors as being snake people. The Aztecs said that they were made by a female snake. See the themes here? So these are ancient origin stories around the globe with people who had no contact with each other in order to share this information or these ideas with, yet, they're cropping up worldwide in kind of every nation's origin stories. The Hopi Indians, they believed that the gods came down to reproduce with their wives, kind of like the Nephilim idea, and referred to them as their snake brothers. The Adena Indians made the serpent mounds in the Ohio Valley in the United States, which is a giant snake-shaped mound that goes on for, if you were to lay it out straight, it's about a mile long, but it kind of curves and winds up, and then it looks like it's eating possibly an egg or something. They're not sure what the last part of it's supposed to be representative of at its head, but it's speculation. But that's, a serpent mound. It's thought that the reptilians have long inhabited underground tunnels, as well as being able to jump dimensions, also. And conspiracists believe that they make up the elitist group known as the Illuminati, which I think, why not? Again, they're supposed to be the wealthiest, oldest money in the world and have the most power that are kind of overseeing the world's governments. So is it possible that, some of them are reptilian or that they're working with them perhaps? Again, I'm not there to find out one way or the other, so I can't negate it. So, and when I can't empirically prove or disprove something, well, I have to keep an open mind and say, well, why not? Why couldn't it possibly be this way? Because I don't have evidence one way or the other to make up an informed decision. So if they are like part of the Illuminati or working with them, it allows them to gain power and control of humans via the world governments, media, genetics, etc. And the goal of making this new world order where they're kind of running things. No, it wouldn't surprise me either, Sandy. There's a gentleman whose name is David Icke. His videos have been taken down here on Facebook before. Especially, I remember there was one that was going around back at the beginning when COVID was just starting out, and it was kind of like, hurry up and view this because it's probably going to get taken down. And sure enough, it was. So he's a conspiracy theorist, and he started out back in the 70s as a sports broadcaster, and then through his research and his pathways learning, etc., he became very, very spiritual and teaches as well. And he has very distinct theories on what reptilians' agenda is in the world. And he's a huge supporter of it, but a lot of people follow him as well. Up to in 47 countries he has supporters, and he goes on speaking tours basically, and that's what he does for a living anymore. So he's kind of been the one to put out the main ideas of the reptilian theories that are out there now. So a 2013 poll, which of course is older now, but it's what's available, that about 4% of registered voters believe in David Icke's theory regarding the reptilians and their agendas. Now, I did go get some information on abductions that allegedly happened pertaining to the reptilian involvement. So there was one really famous one that goes back to 1967. It was an officer, Herbert Schirmer, and that they wore a winged serpent emblem on the left side of their chests. The next day, he began experiencing odd physical ailments, including a weird buzzing in his head, a red welt on his neck on what he called a nerve cord below his ear, so probably in that area there, and it had a horrible headache. His police chief, Bill Loskin, I'm going to say how you pronounce his name, visited the alleged abduction site to look for any signs that might have been left behind by the craft that allegedly abducted him, and to kind of corroborate his officer's story. Now, he did find a small metal artifact whose chemical analysis showed it to be made of iron and silicon, which of course naysayers said, oh, it was probably, cast off by a meteorite in the area, or they come up with all kinds of different reasons why that would be there. And, are those things possible? Yes, but it's not something that would be likely to be found there. I guess it's kind of stood out on the site of where he said he had his encounter. So under hypnosis, he recalled being told, what was he told? I used the cord of the lamp to hold the paper down here. That he would be visited twice more, and that someday he would, quote, see the universe. He went on to end up becoming separated from his wife due to the experiences he had, and he underwent a series of psychological issues resulting from his experiences. Details from subsequent hypnosis sessions were recounted in books like Gods, Demons, and Space Chariots, and Gods and Devils from Outer Space by Eric Norman, who included his abduction story and the subsequent hypnosis sessions he had. Now, of course, there still is that idea that hypnosis isn't a valid form of therapy because of being able to plant ideas and or foster the creation of them through hypnotic suggestion. But I think anymore, most practitioners who are certified hypnotists, they're trained to not do that. So I don't think it's a thing, but I think it can relax people enough to be able to get them to access memories they may have repressed and bring forward to help document them. So I think it's a useful tool, if nothing else. So the following abduction stories, one of them was taken from a collection by a woman named Stephanie Ralph, who was from metatech.org. And it was part of her site's thing that if you were going to cite any one of her stories, that you had to give her credit, which perfectly okay with that. Now, Stephanie has a kinesiology practice, which studies human and non-human body movements of different kinds. And I thought I shut off my notifications on this side. Let me turn it down just in case notification sounds are off. So I don't know why that just went off, but sorry about that, guys. Hi, Renee. So it studies body movement in related to different kinds of, whether it's sports or different activity. So it's measuring movement and non-movement. So she has a trusted friend of over 10 years, happens to be a miner, and he has done it for many, many years. So she asked him if he'd ever seen any like weird reptilian things and if he'd known what they were, which he didn't. And so, yeah, go ahead, Jake, get down. Careful, boo. She explained it to him. So he then related this incident he had happened. So apparently there was like an old copper mine, and yes, Jake had an accident. Clean that up real quick, guys. Sorry. So there was this old copper mine that he went to kind of check out to see would it be worthwhile for him to try his hand at mining down in there. It had been closed off to the public. Like they kind of got what they could get out of it as far as copper goes, but he didn't know if they had anything else down in there that could be worth mining. So anyway, he went down on a rope and he descended down the main chute or entrance into the mine on a rope. And then he took a left turn, I guess. Let me see. And I'm going to stop for a second to clean up after him because he won't get back and get settled if it's anywhere in his vicinity. So, okay, so in an old copper mine in Australia, he lowered himself in on a rope and he went down the shaft about 200 yards, which is about 600 feet, and 8 foot to the right of him, he saw a big pair of grayish green eyes, 6 inches apart in spacing, that were round, and he said they blinked at him. He didn't see what kind of pupils they were, though. He said they were kind of reptilian-like in that, like snakes are said to have slit-shaped pupils. So he couldn't really tell for sure what kind of pupils they had, but he watched for about a minute and then he slowly backed out of the shaft. So in that minute, of course, he was kind of evaluating like, how do I handle this? He didn't know what the eyes belonged to. So he backed out of the mine ever so slowly. Now there are also, just as an aside, some insectoid beings that are said to belong to a race of aliens that are kind of like praying mantises, or giant praying mantises, 7 to 9 feet tall type thing, and that they have a similar kind of eyes. So they can kind of be lumped in with the reptilians if someone doesn't really know what they're looking at, which I could tell the difference between a giant lizard and a reptile, or a praying mantis, of course, but not everybody. So give me 1 second, guys. Clean this up from him real quick so I can get him settled again and not have him interrupt the show. He should be good as far as not needing to go out, but he will not return if there's anything in the pathway leading up to the bed, which there is currently. So let me pick it up real quick for him. He can't tell. He doesn't get any warning when he has to go. So bear with me. I apologize. You guys know Jake's old. Okay, buddy. All done. We can go back up. So, yeah, he doesn't get any warning when he has to go. So it happens before he has a chance to get out. He tries to get up and get out, but, never makes it. All right, Jake, all good. Come on, it's okay. All done. All done, all done. Here's your mat. my glasses so I can see again. Okay. My comments aren't moving, or it's me. Nope. Okay. Yeah, Jacob Baker, you know, Jacob Baker. So in British Columbia, now the following reports of abductions and interactions, the people would just leave like their initials only for privacy's sake. And, you know, they don't want to get ridiculed if their story got out that they had this experience and, oh, you're crazy. So in British Columbia, Canada, there was someone, don't know male or female or for any of these, but their initials are PB, Jake, hey, Jaker, you can get up, you know. You want to lay on the floor, that's fine. Just letting you know you can get back up. All right. So PB reports living in a small town with a strange like couple whose skin has kind of an olive green tone to it. And despite looking like brother and sister, they always had the vibe being put off as being husband and wife. Now they have a natural hot spring in their town, and you know, this couple is always seen there soaking and spending a lot of time there beyond what would be, you know, kind of average or normal. And I guess several people in the town decided they want to get baptized there in this hot spring. They reported feeling a lot of malevolence coming off of this couple that they refused to be anywhere near the water while the humans were in it. And if they had weird eyes, that there were no whites to their eyes. And olive green sheen skin. You can get up if you want to, okay? Letting you know. There was somebody named KJ in Honey Grove, Texas in 1986. They said that one night they got woke up from their dogs barking, and they heard something big walk by their bedroom window. KJ went to the front door and saw diagonally walking under the street light a 7-foot-tall bipedal lizard, meaning walking on 2 legs. Their arms hung halfway down their thighs, and it had a huge thick tail. It went on to walk between the houses across the street and kind of disappear, and they lost sight of it. And they said that they stayed up for a while watching because they were kind of too scared to go back to bed, but didn't see anything further that night. So but odd for sure thing to wake up to. Somebody named KP reported seeing a man on their college campus who they kind of saw in a crowd of people on their way to a class one day, that he had dark skin, quote unquote, bright green eyes with vertical slits for pupils, and there was a black ring around the pupil too. And then they ended up losing this person in the crowd because, again, they were in a hurry rushing off to class, so they didn't see where he went to and never really ran into him again on campus. You know, on a campus you got so many, you know, a couple thousand people there. You're not going to know everybody or have classes with everybody, of course. So they didn't know who the person was, and then they just kind of disappeared into the crowd and never saw him again. But it definitely stood out to them of, you know, their eyes. And there was someone named TW in Houston, Texas. So apparently there's a bunch down in Houston or down in Texas. They reported seeing, they were a truck driver, I guess, and they reported seeing a guy sitting across from him at a burger joint booth who had barely touched their food. They said, you know, maybe took a couple bites out of their hamburger, hadn't touched their fries at all. But suddenly he said he kind of was watching the guy out of the corner of his eye because he was dressed in like a business suit, and wore sunglasses inside, which was kind of unusual to see in that area, I guess. So he kind of was, you know, watching him without being seen watching him, and that he kept seeing a fly buzzing around the table, and that he said he would swear on a stack of Bibles that he saw a snake-like tongue shoot from his mouth and catch the fly midair. And he smiled to himself as he chewed it really, really fast, got up, threw out his uneaten meal, and then left. And again, he wore his glasses inside. The guy speculated so nobody could see his eyes. So are there reports of these reptilians leaving markings on people? Well, that one abduction story said yes, that the guy reported having some mark, like a welt on his neck, and having done procedures and stuff. There was another report, which I'll tell you about in a minute, of this girl, which it does sound like she might have mental health issues as well. So, I'm not trying to judge her at all, but in hearing her story, some of it is kind of hard to tell what she's seeing as truth versus how she perceives things, if she does have a mental health issue. But yes, they can, I guess, leave, markings through experimenting on them. So this one was in 1960 in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. A man kept quiet of this memory. He held on to it all his life until age 48, and he thought he was about age 4 when it happened. Now, this is graphic, I will warn you, but this is what he remembered. And I found him very genuine in his retelling of the memory for the first time. There was a video on YouTube of this, and it was the first time he said he ever told the story of it publicly. And I mean, he was genuinely traumatized by whatever he thought he remembered and had experienced. That was very clear by his reaction, that he was genuinely traumatized by whatever it was, whether it was true or not, whatever, it traumatized the kids. So I did find that valid in that way. So he said thought he was about 4 years old. He woke up to 4 different beings in his room, and he said that he thought that they looked like Casper the Friendly Ghost or something. Now, oddly, in the video, they show him looking like kind of like cartoon style life-size squirrels, but why that's supposed to be Casper, I'm not clear on that one, but he reported Casper. Maybe they couldn't use the image of Casper for his video. I don't know, but they showed squirrels. He said that they took him from his bed, and he felt like that they flew to the ground, and before he knew it, he found himself in a field. He described seeing a craft that was brightly lit, and he said they were eating stick type things he thought was candy. It reminded him, he said, of like the candy cigarettes that were popular in the 70s, and that kids loved it back in the 70s. So he won one because he was a kid and that was popular back then. So he ended up, they kind of looked at each other, he said, and then looked at him oddly, like, why would you want this? But gave him one kind of, he described it kind of like how when a kid is curious in like what beer tastes like, and you might get a rare adult who thinks it's funny to give it to a kid to watch their reaction to being grossed out by it. Is how he said they responded to that. So they gave him it, and he said as soon as he crunched down on he realized it wasn't candy. And he said he very distinctly remembers taking it out of his mouth and looking at it, and that it was a severed finger belonging to a baby. His report, like I said, graphic. I warned y'all. So he was so scared because of not being able to walk once he'd returned to his bed. Like they did return him to his bed. After a while, he had some missing memory of time, but he eventually returned to his bed. He couldn't walk, and he said that he crawled his way into his parents' bedroom and was just completely, of course, flipping out. And his parents actually took him to the emergency room thinking that he was having a seizure. Later, he recounted in memory of seeing about 24 of them sitting around a table, eating what he remembered seeing piled in the center of the table. Again, graphic, fair warning. dozens of dead children. He now believes that many of them were of the missing children who go missing every year without a trace, which, is accurate, that there are, thousands and thousands of children that do go missing every year without a trace. And granted, some are kidnapped and murdered. We know this, etc. But you've heard me speculate that about missing adults. So why not kids? He said he is adamant of what he saw, and he stands by it to this day, that is what he saw, is the bodies of children, dead children, in the center of the table, and that they were eating them. He reported having dozens of experiences since that might never again, they never again saw what he had seen that night or what they were eating. He never experienced that again, but he had his video, or his channel is called Talks the Number 2 Dead on YouTube. So one can go and look it up and watch it for yourselves if you so chose to. But interesting theory yet again, that there's the whole thing of the missing 411 and all the people who go missing in national parks. And yes, they're again, counting aside the child sex trafficking rings and parent custody battle stuff with stealing children, and the people who stalk kids and get murdered, have them murdered and hide their bodies, whatever. But there still leaves hundreds of thousands of children that go missing every year unaccounted for. So, okay, so this one is the one where I thought, she sounded like she might have some mental health issues. I'm only throwing that out there as an aside, as a way of looking at it. This one, I think, for me, could be viewed as either way. She seemed very nervous in recording it, which, okay, that's understandable. If you're going public with something for the first time, you're going to be nervous and stuff. I wonder if they put him back since he tried what they were eating. Can't understand why else they wouldn't have served him up for dinner otherwise. Yeah, unless they were monitoring him or something, for longitudinal studies, perhaps. I'm not sure either. I did wonder that too, of, okay, why did they put him back if they were eating kids? And here was a 4-year-old child. Did they put him back because of that? Or, was he just part of some study maybe? Come on up, puppy. You can at least get some of the fan air. Well, of course, it's hotter on the floor. You're not by the fan. Come on up. Puppy, you can get up. It's okay. Come on. So, like I said, just keep in mind that, you'll hear, make up your own minds with this story. Yeah, right, Tanya? Ugh. So, this is from Alien Abductions Breeding Program on you. That's like your YouTube channel name, age 20s. And anything's possible. Again, since I wasn't there, I can't report on what their motivations were or something, Come on, puppy. Or if his experience was valid or not. Well, get up in front of the fan. It's cooler. Come on up, baby. Get cool. I know it's hotter. Go get a drink first and then get up. And so this woman is recording it in her car, and you can kind of see what looks like, to me anyway, it looked kind of like her back and behind her, and the car is full of like sleeping bag stuff and so forth. So is she living out of her car? I don't know, maybe. Yeah, Hansel, right? So she said that she reports that she started to be abducted by the reptilians in her 20s. They probably cloned the kid that had the memory intact. Yeah, definitely very interesting. Absolutely. So she reported starting to be abducted by reptilians in her 20s and to be taken to a lab on board a ship in a hospital-style bed. Oh, exactly, Tanya. See, that could be. We don't know that. It's possible. Jake, please don't go under the cord. You're going to knock the fan over on your head, you silly. So she reported being taken on board a ship in a lab-like setting with like being in a hospital-style bed, and that you're funny, Natalie. It reminded her of a hospital room that was well stocked with high-tech equipment. Claims to have repeated C-sections, pregnancies, etc., with no real awareness during what was going on. Now, she says that during part of it, but then afterwards says that she does have some memories of it. So there's some conflict there. I almost didn't include this because of this factor that, again, if there's mental health issues, you'll see what I mean. I'll explain in a second. So she said that she would be dreaming of having had like a sexual encounter, and she would turn up pregnant, swearing she was not sexually active, and that going into labor would always occur at night, and that's when she would be taken and aboard this ship and put into this hospital bed type room. That there would be some small device that they had. She would see a big flash of light, and then she would be on their ships. Does remember being given a liquid like Pitocin to induce her labor, and that the doctors and nurses were not human looking. Now, this is where I started kind of questioning the mental health standpoint of this, because is she using this as a way to explain perhaps a conflict in how she was raised in her personal belief system, religious beliefs, against being, a sexually active single woman, turning up pregnant randomly? And is she placing the blame on there because she's reporting several times of becoming pregnant without being sexually active, and going, having the labor always happen at night, being given a liquid like Pitocin to induce the labor. Now, I had Pitocin when my daughter was born, and, it seems like most aliens would have more advanced technology than giving you a fluid like Pitocin through an IV to induce labor. That's just kind of my thoughts on it, but make up your own choices on that. She said she kept vomiting from the pain being so extreme, which I can attest that it makes your contractions much more intense in nature and come much sooner and faster than they would otherwise. So it kind of rushes things along. She said that they broke the amniotic sac. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, Karen. Like, it kind of made me question her mental health state of, is she inserting this delusion? If it is a delusion, I'm not saying it is per se, but if it were to be, is she inserting this delusion of abduction to kind of cover up her illicit sexual activity and turning up pregnant as a single mother, an unwed single mother, which may be against her belief system and her family, as a means to explain what happened to her? Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like they would be a bit past something having to be given via IV fluids. So that's just my thoughts. And you'll hear more. That sounds like a pretty atypical human birth situation. Not Jesus, no. Come on, Jake, come on up. She says that she, lots of times they would, break her amniotic sac to help induce the labor with this long, thin tool that she remembers being afraid of, which, they do use a tool shaped like kind of like a crochet hook, is really like a long crochet hook, is what is used to break the amniotic fluid sac in order to induce labor. It is that. So she has a lot of, again, very similar things to how a traditional human birth is. I wonder if our bodies can't handle their methods of medicine, so they give us things they know we can't handle. Well, yes, I did consider that too, Natalie, and that's why I'm putting it out there in the form of, I'm not sure with this abduction story is, did these things actually happen to her, or does she have mental health issues? Not a coat hanger, Sandy, but they are. It is shaped like a long crochet hook that they use to kind of reach up through your cervix and hook the bag and break your water. Come on, get up. Don't wait till your legs give out on you. Oh, thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, Christine. Come on, Jake, get up. She said she was given ice chips to, help with, because she remembers being very, very thirsty. Okay, Chad, will you always be able to watch the replay? I do pin the most recent shows at the top of the group page. Once you come into the group, it's always going to be pinned to the top of the page. And if it happens to get booted for some reason off the front page at the top, look in the announcements tab underneath the group photo. There's a row of tabs. Look in the one that's marked announcements, and it'll be in there. If you happen to miss a show and are interested in it, my most recent shows will always be in there for the week. So that's an FYI. But thank you for the birthday wishes. Tricor, what is Tricor? What do you mean, Tanya? Yes, they do, use coat hangers to abort babies, but she just reported this long thin tool that scared her, that they were using to, break her water in order to birth the baby. Jake, come on up. Come on. Now. Come on up. And then she also says that she reports being given a shot in the back, which gave her a really bad headache. Now, oh yeah, I don't know the name of it, Tanya. Actually, I remember, I had one used on me when my labor was induced, so I don't know. Exactly, Lori, that made me question, because that would be all you're allowed to have by human medical situation. In a hospital, you would be given ice chips, but you're not allowed to drink in case you get vomiting and they have to intubate you. They don't want you to choke to death, so by anything in your stomach, so they only allow you ice chips. So I thought that was odd that they would give her ice chips, as to help her with her thirst or her dry mouth. A little odd to me. So she reports also getting a shot in the back, which gave her a really bad headache. Now, epidurals can do that. So it sounds like she was given an epidural, and she said that she assumed it was to make her numb. Jake, pay attention and come on up. Get up, honey, now. Come on. Now. Now. 1 second, guys. Okay, I'm not going to fight with my dog. I'm going to mute this so you don't hear me for a sec. Sorry, guys. Didn't think you'd want to hear me arguing with my dog. Drugs are bad. Well, sure. And, the taco, drugs are bad. Eat tacos. You're not going to eat a taco during delivery. I will say that much. Okay. So, again, epidurals, people have reported getting a bad headache from epidurals because it's put into your spinal cord. So in the spinal fluid, if it leaks it all into your system, well, yes, it can cause bad headaches. So he said that they were having to induce her with something like Pitocin or get her water broke, or she would have a C-section. She does report them as others have otherwise, like looks-wise. She reports at one point being abducted, and there was a reptilian in control. Rather, she in the past there were like grays, the gray type of aliens, in kind of being the ones of being in the doctor nurse positions. And this one time there was a reptilian in that place, but the grays weren't really around except maybe exteriorly, and that he was very angry and very, very mean to her. He said it several times. She said that he told her that the grays are no longer in control. The reptilians are now in control. They refused to let her see or hold the baby. She said she got the impression that maybe something was wrong with it, like it was maybe birth defects, what have you, and like they were trying to create the perfect hybrid or something, a perfect looking baby, whatever, but they refused to let her see it or hold it for them, even a moment. She said there was a point where she'd been diagnosed as having like ovarian cysts, and then she was now going back and questioning, was it an ectopic pregnancy that happened, but she remembers the pain. She does remember being taken for that as well, and when she was returned, that there was no more pain. So again, if it's if it is a mental health issue, I do find it interesting, again, the parallels between a traditional human birth that's induced versus one that is, not. And also not letting her see it or hold the baby. Did she put it up for adoption? And is she claiming abduction in order for her to be able to process and live with the fact she had to give the baby up? I don't know. Just throwing it out there. These are things that were running through my mind as I was watching her video, but I thought I would report it, let you guys make up your own mind on it, because it was a big video story. She does admit to being put on psychiatric meds. So again, some red flags there. But the other guy who was taken back in the 1960s, he reported having subsequent psychiatric issues because of his experiences. It's going to mess with your head if you lived through something like this or felt like you did. You're going to have some issues left over with PTSD, etc. So I don't know. Like I said, I figured I would throw out both theories and let you guys choose and decide what you thought of it. But those are things I thought interesting. Now, Antarctica. Now, Antarctica has kind of been a big topic for a while now. Now, Antarctica is kind of like the last free place in the world, not supposed to be owned by any country, and is strictly supposed to be meant for science and research purposes. Okay, we know that. And sorry, I gotta fix myself. Sorry guys, you fell over. Sorry about that. My thing's pulling too tight against my back, my dress. Now we've talked about this before with like the possible hidden pyramids in Antarctica, and sorry about that. There was a former FBI agent, John D'Souza, I believe his name is, who had been monitoring the situation through, he said, web crawlers and stuff that kind of keep an eye out for different things that get mentioned online that alert him to certain key phrases, words, etc. And that there had been being a mad ton of activity in Antarctica with shipments coming in and stuff, bringing supplies and so forth. And anymore, keeping things a secret is not so easy because everybody has a device anymore that has a phone, right? So I know, I'm sorry to Tanya, I didn't mean for it to fall over. Everybody has a device anymore that can record stuff. And so that there was also all these allegations of world leaders showing up in Antarctica. I'm glad you didn't bump your head, Sandy. See, that's why typically I'll lay the tablet down when I get up because it can fall over, just like that. So there have been all kinds of allegations of different world leaders showing up in Antarctica randomly for, it doesn't seem like any valid reason of why they would. Like there was, I guess Newt Gingrich had tweeted or something, put on Instagram, I think it was a tweet, that he was kayaking up in Antarctica, which you can't really kayak in Antarctica, with his wife. Somebody asked him, like, what are you doing? And he said he was kayaking with his wife. Hi. You can't kayak through ice, and it's all just ice frozen tundra up there. Now, granted, a lot of it's melting. There have been some secret underground bases found that are a known use, that were used by Nazis during World War II. We've discussed those in other shows as well. And also, that at one point, things were shifted way back in time, through the last ice age, that Antarctica froze over, but once was a very tropical, lush landscape, much like a rainforest, in fact. And so that's where the idea of possible pyramid structures are a possibility there, that yes, there could have been peoples living there that built pyramids and structures. Now, some of the photos shown for the pyramid structures, yes, you could very much tell that they are like part of the tips of the mountains, but otherwise, yeah, they're obviously a three-sided structure that has been seen up there. And there are also some Now, I don't know the source of this. I haven't seen the photos for myself, but allegedly there's been something seen regarding a possible UFO craft that as some glacier is melting, that it's becoming visible. Don't know a lot of information about that, so I'm not going to talk much about that because I don't have all the details. Yeah, there's supposedly rivers and so forth up there, but again, it's frozen over, and ships coming in, they have to be specially built on their bows to break through the ice as they're coming in, because the water freezes up right behind the ship. Many ships have been lost through the years of getting frozen in place and not being able to move forward because they don't have enough momentum to break through that ice that immediately freezes their ship in place, and they have to either leave the ship and size behind and die on board, whichever. So that's a historical fact as well. So it's not flowing water, it's by any means, and so there's all that history happening up in Antarctica. New research stations being built near some of these things that look like they could be pyramidal structures. So, there's a lot going on up there that is never been happening before. Okay, and I even recently read during the research for this, David Icke had actually purchased one of, I want to say it was an old underground Russian bunker that was up in Antarctica somewhere. What he plans on doing with it is unknown to me, but he bought it anyway. So it is a thing. They're up there. And they have been located with lots of leftover paper things and, journals, whatever. Main equipment and stuff has been removed. Now, let's bring in the reptilian topic to the Antarctica. Here's where it gets busy. Okay, so there was a William Tompkins, he's still living, who was a former United States Naval Intelligence operative who came forward reporting how reptilians helped the Nazis build a secret space program in Antarctica. According to Tompkins, the U.S. Navy learned of the existence of secret Antarctic bases from their spies in Nazi Germany during World War II. So the U.S. had spies over in Germany who reported back learning about these secret Nazi bases that were underground. They found that they used those remote bases to launch space missions to the moon, other planets in our solar system, as well as more distant interstellar locations. As early as 1913, Tompkins reports that the Germans started moving equipment and supplies to Antarctica as early as 1912. So like around 1912, 1913, they started having stuff moved over there to build, and even having things that could be utilizing submarines and a specific kind of submarine that was flat, I guess, to be able to access different entrances, carry in different building supplies, etc., in and out without being detected by anybody on the outside world, because they'd be traveling under the water and under the ice and go in through different cave openings, whatever, which are innumerable underwater, of course, but you can't see them up above. So he reports that this was in motion long before World War II. He reports secret agreements had been reached between Hitler's regime and the draconian reptilians. Tompkins stated, quote, large portions of equipment were sent down there, but right next to them were 3 tremendous sized caverns that the reptilians had. Germany got 2 more, about 1/10 of the size of the big reptilians cavern. They were able to go down usually by submarines. They built regular class subs so they could ship all their stuff down there. There was a Grand Admiral Karl Donitz, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. It has the 2 I's above the O. Who he was a war criminal from World War II with the Nazis, and he remarked during his Nuremberg trial that for war crimes that Antarctica was where Germany's really highly advanced technologies had been secretly relocated by submarines. He boasted at his trial that they had an invulnerable fortress, a paradise-like oasis in the middle of eternal ice, end quote. So he's bringing this out there during his trial. Probably figured I'm screwed anyway, so might as well. Documentation was given after the war to where the hidden entrances were. Tompkins goes on to share via Navy spies embedded in Germany that with the help of the Reptilians, the Nazi Antarctica space program had successfully launched multiple manned missions to the moon, planets, and even other star systems. Tompkins' claims corroborate secret space program whistleblower Corey Goody. I'm not sure if the E is silent at the end or not of his name. I have seen this gentleman on Gaia. I looked up his photo online to see, what I recognize him. And he has, but I have seen interviews with him on Gaia via Facebook Watch. If you go in and search his name on Facebook Watch videos section, his name will come up because Gaia has some short videos posted on Facebook. And I remember seeing this guy. So he was a secret space program whistleblower who claims that from 1987 to 2007, he had access to smart glass pads, which described the successful Nazi space program out of Antarctica. Goody said the Antarctica program was controlled by German secret societies rather than the Nazi secret service. Quote, Nazi remnants kept the most advanced technological secrets from even the highest military and political leaders and set up enclaves to South America and Antarctica. And it was also thought that Hitler had actually escaped to South America. Interesting tie there, right? That they set up secret enclaves to South America and Antarctica, and the location in Antarctica were some ancient civilizations' ruins that had remained occupied by certain groups in thermal areas that caused areas similar to lava tubes and domes under the glaciers. My youngest stopped by, so I'll have to catch the replay. Thanks, Donna. Loves everyone. You have a good night, Natalie, and thank you for the birthday wishes earlier. I appreciate you. Thank you for popping in. So Goody goes on to corroborate Tompkins' claims. So they're basically bouncing off of each other, corroborating each other's versions of stories and events. So I found that interesting. William Tompkins' autobiography is called Selected by Extraterrestrials, and it's available on Amazon. An article in the Atlantic magazine that was said how to spot reptilians running the United States government. So this was an article that ran in the Atlantic magazine. It's online, I guess, or is in print anyway, but the article was online that I found. Approximately 12 million Americans, according to this article, quote, know that the United States government is run by reptilians. They can't back it up by any evidence, but they know it. Like they trust that, yes, this is probably what's happening. Speaks, yeah, so you're familiar with him too, Sandy, yeah. Yep, so I have seen him on like the Gaia videos that are on Facebook Watch. As soon as I saw his picture, I was like, oh yeah, I've seen him. Well, exactly, Lori, and we're going to get into some of this in a couple minutes here, so don't go nowhere. So David Icke, reptilian theorist, says thousands of years ago, reptilian beings from the constellations Orion, Sirius, and Draco began manipulating human DNA. He said it's not coincidence that humans have fundamental reptilian genetics in our brain. You know, we do. We have a reptilian center to our brain that controls our survival instincts, basically, the fight or flight stuff, the the urge to survive, the involuntary movements of the human body are controlled from the reptilian side of the brain. And I mean, it's called that. So like, where did that come from? I do remember thinking about that as a kid, of reptilian center of the brain, like, all right, why do we have something reptilian in us? And as a kid, of course, I didn't think anything about an alien species, but just thought, why, did we evolve from reptiles? This is kind of my thinking as a kid. Yes, Corey Goody is on Gaia. So I mean, the videos of his interviews can be viewed on Facebook Watch videos. So if you go in the Facebook Watch section, like if you go to sometimes it shows up as an F in a circle, or the little lines at the end of your toolbar on Facebook. Click that, scroll down, and there's a section that says videos watched or videos on watch. Click on that, and it'll take you to where you can search for different videos. So you can search for Corey Goody's name, and all the videos he appears in will turn up for you. Hi, Mary. And so they're relatively shorter videos. They're not, even a full show, but they're parts of shows. So that's something I always wondered, is why do we have reptile DNA in our genetics? But I was just a kid, so how do I know? So in this article that was in the Atlantic, it had like a questionnaire of how to spot someone who's been manipulated / merged with a reptilian. Now the merged part is where it's thought that in some cases they can kind of insert their consciousness into a human and then hence controlling them. Interestingly, there was the woman who wrote the Twilight book series, Stephanie Myers. She wrote a book, I can't remember the name of it now. However, it dealt with this topic of an alien species coming in and overtaking humanity. And they were a species of consciousness that traveled and looked for hosts. So they would push out the host consciousness and then use that body to operate from. And they saw it as improving society by getting rid of all the bad parts of a society's way of life and harming their environment and living in peace with it. But, they kind of in the process pushed out the human's consciousness to take over. And it was like a story of this one woman who fought to have her consciousness pushed out and to remain present with the alien's consciousness in her bright brain space, and that she succeeded in sharing it with this alien. And there was a group of survivors who had built this underground cavern, like an underground town, basically built of survivors, and had created a life under there where they could remain safe from those other, like the main population of the aliens who would find them and kind of take away their consciousness. And her integration into the survivor society, having a different voice come out of her mouth. It was an interesting book, especially compared to the Twilight material, but it reminded me of that. So it's kind of in talking about something like that the reptilians can do, where they can push out our consciousness and replace it with their own to operate from using our bodies as shells. So some of the traits to look for, I guess, in someone who has been manipulated or merged with a reptilian is, the first one is predominantly of green or hazel eyes that can change color like a chameleon, but also it can be with blue eyes. And I know with my DNA report I just got back, I guess blue eyes is actually becoming a rarity in the world. Only 17% of humans have blue eyes. Interesting. And my eyes do change color with my mood. So they're kind of a blue greenish color, but they will change if I'm tired, if I'm crying, or whatever, get blue gray color or turquoise and stuff. So am I part reptilian? Maybe. So the second one is that you have green eyes. Well, see, Ronnie? You're a lizard lady. Has true red or reddish hair. Now, my natural hair color has copper highlights in it. I'm a brunette naturally, but I mean, yes, this is colored. You guys know that. I make no secret of that. But my natural hair has copper highlights in it anyway. Tends to have low blood pressure. Oh, see, I guess a lot of us, kind of qualify that. My mother had hazel eyes. Their blood pressure tends to be on the low side. They have keen sight and hearing, which that excludes me right there. Has ESP. You have green eyes, but yours changed too. Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of us could fit this, right? That they have piercing eyes. They have a sense of not belonging to the human race. Number 8 has a deep compassion for the fate of mankind. 9 has psychic abilities. 10 has unexplained scars on one's body. 11 has capability to disrupt electrical appliances. I don't affect electronics. I drain batteries. That's a big trick there, gift, huh? That they have alien contacts, so they may communicate telepathically with aliens. So according to this list, former U.S. President Obama has many of these traits and may be a reptilian as well. Karen's normal. Hey, for once, you qualify as normal. So according to this list, former U.S. President Obama has many of these traits. Now, this part's funny. There was actually a YouTube video. This was filmed only in America, folks. The former president was filmed with being interviewed, and this fly was bugging the crap out of him during the interview, and it showed him catching it and like swatting it, killing it, and actually zooming in on a dead fly on the floor to verify he killed the fly. Well, I don't think that probably makes him a reptilian, but there's an actual YouTube video out there about this and saying like that's, hey, maybe he is reptilian. Also, Biden, Romney, Gingrich, and Rumsfeld also could be reptilian. Now, there was interestingly also Cruz. If I think it was Ted Cruz, maybe, not sure his first name, politician guy. He was being interviewed on some radio talk show, and also one of the guests they had was a comedian, and he said, I've heard these stories that you are a reptilian alien. Are you? And Cruz wouldn't answer. He kept avoiding the question, and he gave some big long story that he said, well, actually, and he launched into a big story meant to distract off the topic, but this comedian guy would not let it go. He said, well, how does that answer my question? Are you a reptilian? Like, it's not a trick question. It's a yes or no. Please answer it. And he finally kind of whispered, my grandchildren are listening. And that's all he would say. And he jokingly said, well, if I don't answer him, I'm not encouraging him to continue. And the talk show host was apologizing for the comedian kind of being so dogged about it. But he wanted an answer. He never did answer it. So, it makes you wonder. My uncle caught one with his mouth, but was plastered though. Biden is, that explains everything. I understand. Now, the Draco reptilians seem many glitches, like I said, I talked about earlier, many glitches have been caught on film of some of these people where like their eyes it almost looks like, how some lizards have, or reptiles have like an inner eyelid that can close and open. Some of the glitches looks like that. Some of the glitches do look like slitted pupils, or that their eyes change color to be more yellow in color, or that their features kind of shift a bit while they're talking. And so people who are firm believers in the reptilian theories think that they are shape shifting and being caught on camera doing so. There are those who come forward saying, well, no, it's a holographic body that they're trying to present and are having trouble maintaining it. And then that's what it's about. There was some woman shown on a reality show. I don't know who she was or what show she was from. The video clip didn't say she was mentioned in passing, but it showed her eyes like she would kept like closing one eye and the other, but kind of like going cross-eyed with the one eye while the other was open. It was very odd. I don't know what she was making the faces about, but they said that, because of her eyes, she was having trouble with her holographic body, but most write it off as film issues with the pixelations, etc., and how it comes into pixelations on a TV screen, and that's really what the stuff is. So the Draconians are thought to be the fiercest of them. Right, Sandy, exactly. That's exactly one of the videos I was talking about. Was Hillary Clinton's eyes doing that? But there were a few others too, which I have a whole list. There's even those that consider the biblical Nephilim to be reptilians. And the Nephilim, I did a show on that once too, were supposed to be the offspring of the fallen angels in the Bible, who came down and mated with human women, who then reproduced, and that the Nephilim were the offspring, half angel, half human. But there are people who believe in the reptilian theories who think that that's really what the Nephilim are reptilians. It's not obviously in the Bible to say so, but those who, there's not much mention even in the Bible about the Nephilim anyway, but they kind of run with it. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi is another one who's been seen doing it. I'm not sure it has enough intelligence. So, I'm not going to get into a political discussion in here because that never ends well. But we all have our people we support and favor. And I thought I froze on video for a second. I guess I didn't, but everybody has their favorites for politics, but no political discussions in Willows Bend. That's a rule. So, all right. So 15 other celebrities and politicians that are considered to be reptilian from David Icke's standpoint. Okay. So number 1, Queen Elizabeth. Number 2, Lady Gaga. Now, some of these, they kind of explain why they were thought to be reptilian. Lady Gaga, I'm not sure why she was considered so. Yeah, Ronnie, that and religion, yeah, those don't end well in discussions, and it's left to be totally, because it gets out of hand too easily. So having just a generalized respect of the differences everyone has in beliefs, that's the rule for Willows Bend. So that includes politics and religion. So I'm not sure why Lady Gaga is considered reptilian. I've never seen anything from her that of those characteristics, but it's perfect weather for ice cream. I wanted it really bad earlier too, Karen. Dick Cheney is thought to be one. Number 4, Miley Cyrus. Number 5, Angelina Jolie. Number 6, Sir Edward Richard George Heath, aka Ted Heath, who is the former British Prime Minister. Number 7, Beyonce. Now I know with Beyonce, where they got that is that she has talked about very publicly having created kind of an alter ego to be the one who performs on stage for her, so that it's separate from who she is as a person. There's also been talks that she might have been cloned, and because she never seems to age, and her father has publicly gotten her age wrong on camera, or thought to have been wrong and inaccurate, so they kind of put her to that too, just like Ted the Cravings Chronicle. Kim Kardashian is number 8. Number 9, Tom Cruise, and he's a big proponent and supporter for Scientology, which is a belief that, aliens exist. Now, publicly, he's only ever stated that it would be, egotistical and foolish for humans to believe that we are the only intelligence that ever exists anywhere. So he's never gotten totally off the wall with it, but he's been thought to be a reptilian also. Oprah Winfrey. Stephen Harper, who is the 22nd Canadian Prime Minister, William Shatner, Elon Musk, number 13, number 14, Hillary Clinton, and number 15, Donald Trump. Yeah, they've cited like Angelina Jolie's like odd behavior through the years and all of her changing looks and stuff. It does a lot of people, but everyone's entitled to their beliefs. So if that's what does it for somebody and they want to go with it, then more power to them. So Donald Trump is number 15. So basically, make up your own minds. What do you think based on the evidence presented? Are reptilians, heavily immersed in the governments of the world and or have hidden underground cities where they're still operating out of? What do you guys think in the audience about that or in the chat? I mean, there are those abduction stories that seem very valid, and I do believe that they went through something that was very traumatic to them. The one, like I said, that could go either way, mental health issues or trying to kind of cover up perhaps a difference in how she was raised versus what her actions were to justify it or make it so something she could live with. I don't know. But the rest of them seem pretty, valid. Why is it that the people that you mentioned are ones that I don't really care for? I don't know, Lori. They're ones that a lot of people think to be weird or unusual, or have differences of how they carry themselves, conduct themselves. Do reptilians do a comb over? Maybe. I think they've been influencing the governments for centuries. I agree with that, Sandy. That's kind of my stance on it too. I think that, again, it would be naive to think that we are the only intelligence out there. And even if the government comes forward saying, oh yes, UFOs are real, and I had to laugh because there was one video I saw on YouTube, that was saying evidence for reptilians in the Senate. So it was a gentleman, a congressman, speaking to Congress, reading off of some report. And he started reading it, and as he goes, and he says, oh, a lot of this is confidential, so I can't disclose that. So as he's reading, like every other word, it was like, and they have this, and this, in the case of this activity happening, then confidential. If this happens, this confidential, then the humanity would do this confidential. And at one point he mumbled under his breath, like, Jesus Christ, like, he was shocked at what he was reading, is how I took his reaction to be. That's obviously not a proof or evidence of reptilians anywhere, but it was presented as such. I don't think they're aliens. I think they've contacted us since time, and they've shut down missile silos. So you think it was the reptilians that have been the ones to do that missile silo shutdown, Karen? Tanya says there's supposed to be an underground shaft with many levels that has many different species of aliens that work with scientists. Yeah, and that was actually, so there, I presented it in, what show was it? Some show on different alien races out there, that there was a Russian book, or one that was put together from Russian governmental documents, that spelled out all the different species of aliens and talked about the secret meetings that were supposed to take place with President, I believe it was President Truman and Eisenhower, one of the two, that they had, where he was supposed to be at Camp David, disappeared for like a full 48 hours, and his whereabouts were unknown. And when he surfaced, he was like 75 miles away and cited he always had to go get a tooth fixed, but there's never been a record found of any dental work on him at that time. And it was said that they were working on a like a treaty between the two of aliens and humans, and what they would allow and not allow. and that the first couple rounds that the president shot down and wouldn't agree to. A part of it, yes, Tanya, was having a couple secret bases that would allow for an exchange of humans and aliens to kind of work together and study like an exchange program, and that they could have their own also, but in return that the aliens would not disclose their presence. So, I mean, I think the government's not going to come out and say, oh, here's everything we have on aliens, UFOs throughout time and history. It's going to be a small piece of the truth, but enough to make it look like, hey, we have the humans and Americans or the Russians or whoever, whatever government's doing it, to say we have their best interest at heart, but it's only going to be a tiny sliver of the piece of the truth. So, right, nobody knows what species did that, but they did have the power to do so. I don't think politicians in Hollywood are aliens. Okay. Hi, Sandra. That was Eisenhower. Okay. Thank you, Sandy. So, you know, again, it's up to you guys to make up your own mind. I do find it interesting that it has been scientifically proven. We do have an area of our brain that's called the reptilian brain. But from there, you know, does that mean that they've tinkered with our DNA altogether, or, you know, are they in operation behind the scenes? Now, I do believe, I find John DeSouza a pretty valid resource. They kind of leave him alone. He's retired with honors from the FBI at this point, and they leave him alone as long as he doesn't specifically name names of high-ranking officials. So he can say there once was an Army general I worked with in a meeting and he said this without saying the guy's name. They don't get him in trouble because of that or see him as like a whistleblower. But he has he's written several books, and he goes on a talk show circuit for a lot of people's podcasts, conferences, etc. And he's talked a lot about the whole Antarctica thing. So I think they occupy many levels of our civilization, high-ranking positions. Yeah, I tend to think so too, Tanya. And they have, you know, is it possible that they're in, you know, the monarchies of the world where monarchies are in rule? Yeah, why not? You know, I don't have evidence that they're not. So I leave it as an open-ended thing of a possibility because I don't have evidence saying that they're not in control or working with them. Could their tinkering with DNA created us? That's one school of thought with things, Renee, yes. Is that they had always been here since before the time of the dinosaurs and helped make us. And conspiracy theorists say that that's what is behind, you know, every civilization has their own like flood story and so forth, as well as a creation story. And it's thought that, you know, they may have initially not been happy with what they created in terms of tinkering with DNA, etc. So the floods served to wipe everybody out. Like, okay, we're calling a do-over here and get rid of everybody and then start over again. You know, is that a possibility? I think because the flood story appears in every ancient civilization as something that happened, then yeah, I think that's possible. That makes better sense, Tanya. Yeah, so I think that, like with John DeSouza, he thinks that they are kind of the world leaders are going to Antarctica, and they are basically fighting for their own piece of the pie from them, technology-wise, etc., to make sure they are represented, their country's represented, and gets a little piece of the goodies in doing so, and that they are then disseminating and choosing, and part of that being like they can take untold numbers of people every year from around the world in exchange for leaving the rest of them alone. Bill Clinton at one point wanted answers about aliens. He was hushed quickly. Maybe Hillary is, but Bill isn't. Yeah, it's possible. Yes, and that was kind of like proof that being president doesn't automatically allow full disclosure of that stuff. He basically hit all the same roadblocks an average person would have hit in seeking out that information from the government, from every resource to obtain documentation from. He got shut down, redirected, and snowballed and bedraggled on letting him be in the know. So, but Hillary's always seemed to kind of have her own agenda anyway, especially since he got busted with Monica Lewinsky. Things shifted between them, and he faded into the background, if you remember correctly, and she started stepping forward. So, right, yeah. So, I think that he did try. I respect him for trying to get those answers, and I do believe he would have passed them on to the general public had he received them, hence why he wasn't allowed to get them, because if he got them, he would have told everybody. And the government wants to keep that, hush-hush thing in place. So it's up for everyone's viewpoint. I think that obviously we all can agree that the chances of there being alien presence and involvement in Earth's governments and so forth, influencing things, is a very probable thing. And, just to what degree or which race of beings are involved in it, we hear different names of different races thrown out there. So kind of an unknown thing on that. So there you guys go, the reptilian races. In a nutshell. So, Indian bear cleaning bill, right? Okay, so the next Willows Bend is going to be July 5th. Got into July already for episode 138. My crown's like not visible here. That's kind of, there we go. Thank you, Sandy. So the topics to vote on for next week are, and I did remember to get a quarter out this time. The Mary Celeste, the ghost ship that turned up with its crew absolutely missing, like they vanished in the middle of supper time. All their stuff and still food and everything and dishes still on the tables. Unknown where they ever went, but the ship turned up and, unmanned, basically. If you think about it, Trump created Space Force. Maybe he knows something big is going to go down. You're welcome, Christine. One conspiracy theory is that's why JFK was assassinated. I think it's all interrelated. And, the Space Force stuff, there, many of you may have seen the video where it shows, it was recorded, I think, from the space station, perhaps, or maybe one of the satellites, but it shows what looks like a UFO flying outside of our atmosphere and just, not doing anything to us, just outside of our atmosphere. And that there is like a flash of light, like some weapon from ground got fired up through our atmosphere at this object. The object jetted away in the other direction. It got missed. And the trajectory of where that flash came from does go to a base on the ground. So, yeah, I think that it definitely is something. I still don't understand Space Force. I thought that was NASA. NASA is a government program, though. No, NASA is not just to explore space. Absolutely not. They are a government program who is restricted by, the rules of public safety and of the Homeland Security and all that stuff. Oh, yeah. NASA is a government agency. It is not a separate organization working to evolve our knowledge on space only. So it is a government-funded agency. Well, it was like, this thing that was seen shooting up was an alien craft, a UFO, that was seen in our upper atmosphere, like outside of our atmosphere, just kind of near us. And that this flash of light happened with like shooting in an upward trajectory, like it was aimed at this object. The object changed directions and took off, so it missed it. And they kind of traced the trajectory of where that flash of light came from, and it came from one of our bases on the ground. Well, I think of that if aliens wanted us dead and wiped out, it would have happened long before now because they have the capability. So whether they're, taking a certain number of us per year to experiment on whatever, never to be seen or heard from again, or something else. Well, that part's unknown, but again, if they wanted humanity wiped out, we would have been gone long ago. They're so far advanced from us, that would be an easy thing for them to accomplish, I think. So obviously, I mean, it's just, I think alien races are just like humans. You have crappy humans who are mean and not nice people. Well, you have the same thing in the alien races. Some of them are nice, some of them aren't so nice, and are mean or bad or whatever you want to label them as. And so kind of the same idea. You get both things in both places. So I think it's universal that you're going to have good and bad, if you will. And every being has their own agenda of what they prioritize importance on. You do, I do, everybody has their own agenda of what they feel is most important, that they want to get accomplished, etc. So why would any alien race be any different? Imagine Space Force shooting at a UFO. Well, yeah, Karen, we're like cattle or mice to them, perhaps. Absolutely. We're their entertainment, yeah. I don't think they want this older body. Yeah, they probably don't want mine either, Nancy. Or Lois Lawyer said that, sorry. But there is video evidence of a lot of this stuff in place, yet the government still takes plausible deniability, which was based on a report from the 50s or 60s, I believe it was, where some outside agency was tasked with looking at what would be the outcome if full disclosure happened with humanity. And it was seen that we couldn't handle it, because look at how we responded to Orson Welles' fake radio broadcast that was strictly an entertainment show, but people hearing it took it dead serious and panicked. So they based their decision on how we could handle it on that 50, 60 years ago. Yet a lot has changed in the last 50, 60 years in our mentality, in our understanding, in our advancement, in our growth spiritually, emotionally, etc., understanding of other things outside of ourselves. A lot's changed. We're not as naive as we once were, and I think we could handle the truth, but they still cite this report from all those years ago for being the reason why we can't handle it. Right, Chicken Little. And I mean, what through Orson Welles' broadcast, yes, people panicked. People went wild in the streets and flipped their shit, and the sky is falling, and took it literal. And I mean, it was put in Orson Welles' brilliancy. It was put across hey, this is an actual news report. We're interrupting your broadcast to bring you this late breaking news story. And so it was put out there and they didn't have TV visuals back then like we do now. So it was literally just hearing the voices on the radio and that stuff happening somewhere else. Well, in light of the era it happened in too, with war always on the pending horizon of everything and mass destruction of everybody, people were afraid anyway. So the idea of an unknown race of beings coming in to harm us was terrifying to those people. They heard this and ran with it. So I get where it happened or how it happened, but at the same time, a lot has changed since then to deepen our understanding of the universe as a whole. It would hurt religion. Some people are not ready. No, not everyone is ready. And, it's always going to be that with some people. You know it as well as I do, no matter who you are, where you are. There's going to be some people who are in defiance and not accepting it, who will not have their awakening, who will not look outside of the box to see and understand more. I don't know what that was. That wasn't me. Cat might have made the noise. I don't know. So, there's always going to be those, and through channeled messages that get brought through spiritually, it has been said that those who don't will finish living out their lives, and through when it's their turn to reincarnate again, they're going to be born elsewhere and not back here on Earth, and that Earth is going to continue to shift and evolve for, to enter in that golden age that's been prophesied. We aren't going to live to see it, of course, but our children's children might and probably will. It started now already and is in the process. So it takes time. You got to deconstruct everything before you can rebuild it. So anyhow. 90% of the Bible thumpers around here. Oh, I'm sure, absolutely. They're again, they're going to be that with any religion. There's always extremists, and you're never going to exchange them or otherwise. But people have not changed in respect to thinking first and not panicking. Those who have not had their awakening or see outside of themselves to their box, a lot of people who haven't yet, as long as their little corner and bubble of the world is okay, that's what matters. It's kind of like, those people who always watch the 11 o'clock news every night and sit there, or 7 o'clock news, whatever, and sit there listening and watching it. And, oh, that's so terrible that's happening there. Honey, can you give me a beer while you're up? It's like a disconnect. As soon as they get done hearing it, there's a minute moment of empathy towards others, and then they disconnect because it's not them, and they're okay. So that's what matters. And you're not going to ever influence those people who are, comfortable and that's their concern, is their own little bubble of the world. As long as that's okay, then doesn't matter. There are those who resent recycling and are against it and don't care, don't make any effort to do so. They don't have time for it, and there's no thought of what the impact to the environment is, what they're teaching their children, etc. You're not going to change those people's minds. Chaos, that's what my place looks like while going through shit. Well, I think everyone has. Yeah, I don't watch the news either, Sandy. And in fact, when like COVID and stuff first started, I had people genuinely contacting me, like going into a full hard-on depression over it, like watching the news, and I can't shut it off. And they were like, walking around in tears and scared to death and severely depressed. And I'd be like, well, you have the free will to, shut it off, but it's everywhere. Then put down your device and carry your ass outside and go find something else to do. Go read a book. Like you're only tied to your device if you allow yourself to be. So if you're going to stay stuck to it, then don't complain. Hubs finally agreed to get rid of cable when we move. I have not had cable in, watch out, Jake, you're right on the edge there, baby. Gosh, I think I tried having it very, very briefly after my mother died. I had it put in my name for my daughter's sake. We tried it so that she could watch a couple shows a day or whatever. And it really didn't end up being worth the money. So I nixed it and said, okay, well then what would you rather have, internet or cable? You choose. And she picked internet, and I've not had cable ever again. Yep, I don't have it for any means. I don't, I'm not a big TV watcher or whatever, and I've never been, there's a couple channels that are of interest to me, and, I'm not certainly not enough to pay what they ask for cable. So anyway, okay, so topics to vote on for next week. We got the Mary Celeste, the ship I talked about before, the Tunguska event, which was in Russia, where it was thought that a giant meteorite had crashed into the area, causing just the destruction of a nuclear bomb going off, and yet there is no impact site ever found. So it's really completely unknown as to exactly what happened there. And it happened, 60 some odd years ago now, and things are still not growing right in that area. So it is kind of like a nuclear bomb went off when there's nothing to back up how or what. The Hopi Indians, the unknown discs of Volgograd, Russia, which are this massive amounts of stone discs found in many, many places that it's unknown who made them, where they came from, etc. The babushka lady, we got a lot of Russian things this time, who is a blind psychic medium, and she astral project and so forth. So there's her. And evidence for advanced civilizations that science is ignoring. So I think that was it. Let me double check the next page. Yes. So that's what we got on the table for right now. The Mary Celeste, the Tunguska event, Hopi Indians, unknown discs of Volgograd, Russia, the babushka lady, and evidence for advanced ancient civilizations that science ignores. It's on the list, Lori, so if it gets voted for, but majority rules, So Mary, hi Deb, I didn't even know you were here. So you went to Mary Celeste, gotcha. Karen says the discs. Ronnie says the Hopi Indians. Sandy G says the Mary Celeste. Lori's the Hopi Indians. Tanya says the Babushka Lady or Advanced Civilizations. Mary says, or Sandy says the Mary Celeste. Yeah, Mary says the Sandy Celeste. Renee says crabs. You have crabs? I hope you don't have crabs. Hey, Brenda, you're coming in at the end, lady. Been on for 2 hours now, or just about. You're late. We're in the voting thing right now. Kim says the Hopis. Okay. Gotcha, Kim. Nancy says the Babushka Lady. Renee says Mary Celeste. So that's what, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's 11, but we got 13 people watching. So who's the other 2 who haven't voted yet? Stacy, where'd you go, sis? My little multitasker. Katie says the Hopi Indians. Okay. There she is. Okay, so Mary Celeste or the Hopi. Sandra says the Babushka Lady. Is that everybody? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Mary Celeste, the Tunguska event, Hopi Indians, unknown discs of Volgograd, Russia, the Babushka Lady, evidence for advanced civilizations that science ignores. Is that it? So if so, we have a tie, and I will get my quarter out. See, I took a quarter out. I remembered. Yep, I got Katie for the Hopi. And that's what I think I started to say, but didn't finish saying that for anybody who might be new to the show or the group, whatever, that Katie is the one who broadcasts us and is owner operator of Soma Fusion Media LLC. And Katie is the mastermind behind it all. We got everybody? Okay. So I will flip a coin because we have a tie between Mary Celeste and the Hopi Indians. So we'll do heads for Mary Celeste and tails for Hopi Indians, okay? What's the tie? I just said it, Renee. Between the Mary Celeste and the Hopi Indians. All right, so heads, Mary Celeste, tail will be the Hopi Indians, okay? Ready, set. Tails, Hopi Indians. There we go. There you go, Lori. Yep, I got your vote before, Renee. So we got the Hopi Indians for next time. Mary Celeste will still be on the table as well as the other topics. So let me jot that down. So that'll be next Monday on July the 5th for episode number 138. Give or take. I might have screwed up the numbering along the way because of the times the archives got lost and stuff. See, I told you, Lori, you never know. So Hopi, so I'm just writing it down on the next page so I know what I'm doing. Okay. This Wednesday, we have the book group. We're still working on the Seth's material. That's June 30th, 8 p.m. Eastern time in the room in Willows Bend group. And I will be on my page, Beyond the Veil, doing readings Friday on July 2nd, 8 p.m. Eastern time also. All are welcome. For anybody who happens to be watching or listening to us anywhere else on any other social media platform, YouTube, etc. I do have a group in Facebook called the Willows Bend. You can look it up, and it's a private group. You're welcome to join. It's a spiritual group with a huge resource library for everybody in there who's interested in it. Lots of topics covered, etc. Also, I have a page Beyond the Veil, and that's where I do my readings and things from. And anyone can, contact me via Facebook Messenger is the easiest, fastest way to get me. And I'm on there under Donna Gorton. I know it still has my old name here for my login on Zoom of Hawk Walks the Land, which is my medicine woman name, which I don't openly use all the time. I did change it back because it's shorter and it lets me. And people get confused. They don't know how to pronounce the Who Walks the Land part. They can't separate it. So to make it easier for everybody, I was able to change it back finally. So I did. So thank you for everybody coming. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you have a blessed rest of the week. I will see those who are interested Wednesday night for the book group in Willows Bend. Just go to the rooms tab, watch your notifications, etc. I will be doing the post for the event notice tonight probably, and get that posted. So follow the link. It's easy peasy. Go into under the rooms, in the rooms tab in the group, which is on the left side. Just click on it. Join. Bada bing, bada boom. Video chat. There you are. Easy peasy. So otherwise, those interested, I'll see you Friday night for readings. Thank you, Lori. Thanks for being here. So love and light to everybody. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Katie, for your work behind the scenes as well. And thank you, Tanya. I appreciate it. The big 50. I'm now like half a century old. It's just a number, but it's one of those in my family, the century or quarter century marks, the half century marks, those give you pause to be like, wow, I'm like half a century old now. Holy cow. Just a number. And an excuse to wear my smoky crystal crown. So, it's all good. Thank you, Stacy. I appreciate it. And for Sandy as well. Thank you, guys. Lots of love to all of you. Thank you for all of the birthday wishes. Facebook makes it the one day of the year I'm a little Miss Popular. Thank you, Ronnie. You too. Thank you, Renee, for all the birthday wishes to all of you. Everyone have a wonderful rest of the night. Try to stay cool if possible. Be safe out there. And I will talk to those interested for the book group Wednesday. Good night, everybody. Love you.